Targeted communication is something that Training Standards International came up with. What we found is that people generally will speak to each other, but not directly to each other. Most people, unfortunately, we all know listening, we've heard or been in classes where we know that you're supposed to actively listen, but how do you actively target someone when you're communicating with them? For instance, if you're speaking to me, one of the things that would be easier for you to know is I don't care about emotional stains. So if you go, I need you to be caring and loving, it goes right in one ear and right out the other one. If you're going to communicate with me, you have to speak in logic and numbers and reason. I need to know that when I'm speaking to my employees or when I'm speaking to my other managers or my other C-level employees, execs, or even to my family. Targeted communication is specifically that. The reason that came up is most of the things that we do for Training Standards International comes about from all of us sitting around and going, hey, I'm noticing this is happening. What do we do about it? A lot of companies don't do that. We have these problems, we have these issues or opportunities, and we forget to simply talk about them. But this came about, I was having a conversation with my son, and I walked into the room and I said, hey, how many times do I have to tell you to take the trash out? And he's my son, so I've been communicating with him for a long time. He's 9 years old, he's playing a video game, and he says, I don't know, how many times have you told me? And he paused the game and looks over at me, and he has my look. So he has these crazy eyebrows, and he goes, and the look was, I got you, Dad. You got nothing. You asked the wrong question. Now that you've asked the wrong question, we get to go down this rabbit hole of the wrong question. So I don't know how many times you have to tell me. How many times have you told me? Let's start there. And I walked out of the room, and I was like, drat! This little monster is exactly right. So I came back and I said, I've told you to take out the trash about 386 times. He's playing this video game still, and he pauses it, and he goes, about 368 times, or exactly? How many times? If you want me to answer your question, I want to answer your question. You have to be more specific. And I walked away, and this time it's like, fine. I walk away, and I figured it out, and I come back, and I say, I have told you exactly 397 times. And he goes, oh. And he keeps playing. And I'm standing there, and I go, well, he goes, oh, you want to know how many times you have to tell me? I'll let you know, I'm thinking about it. Which again, is perfectly reasonable. Now, most people, when they hear this conversation, they go, I would smack that kid. Here's the thing, I set the rules. I set the parameters for these interactions. Just like you do every time you speak with someone. When you meet someone in the grocery store and you say hello, you are setting the parameters for that communication. But especially when you're working with someone, that is targeted. You are saying every time you open your mouth to them, this is how I want you to communicate with me. Now there's some people, I was in Japan and people were speaking, and my guide, my driver, every time I spoke, he would say this, And the first couple times he did it, I was like, wow, he's always eating something, because I thought he would literally go, and I'm like, God, it must be really good. But he wasn't. This is just how he communicated. 3 months later, every time he opens his mouth to me, guess what I'm doing? Because that's a polite way of saying, yes, I'm listening. So cut back to my son, and he goes, I'll let you know. And again, I established the parameters for this conversation. I walk away, and I come back, and he says, Dad, I thought about what you said, and it's 500. And I said, what's 500? He goes, your original question was, how many times do you have to tell me to take out the trash before I take out the trash on my own? You've told me, and now I'm telling you, I'm answering your question 500 times. And it goes back to his video game. And the look on his face was pure pride. He could have put his arms behind his head. He was just so happy. And I was like, I don't know if I could actually get away with it or not, but I could lock you in a room, you know? But all right, I established this. I communicated with him this way. I showed him how to do this. I went into my room. I wrote, I will now take out the trash on my own. I printed it up 500 times, handed it to him, had him sign in. I said, guess who's accountable for taking out the trash now? I'm never going to ask you again. Now there are only repercussions for you not doing what you said you were going to do. And he goes, oh, you got me. Yeah, because I'm a grown-up. That's right. Targeted communication. Now, do I expect you to talk to your employees that way? Absolutely not. However, you are establishing how your employees are going to communicate with you. Most managers, most supervisors will not remember this when they have conversations, and we need you to. So what we do at Training Centers International is we'll practice these kinds of conversations, and you have to know how you want people to communicate with you. If I have an employee who loves walking up, and every communication she has begins with a hug, except for when she starts communicating with me, because I don't like to hug. So targeted communication just makes our working relationship a lot easier. Training Standards International. Sometimes if you want someone to know something, you just have to ask questions, but remember this, no matter what, rule of targeted communication, you're always training someone.